One of the things we want to do here is we certainly want to bring innovators and entrepreneurs, but we also want to bring folks who are thinking about the thing that David spoke in the very beginning of this journey today, which is how do we think about sustainability. So we're very pleased today. We have Tom Szaky, the CEO of RECYCLABLE, joining us to tell us a little bit about his business. Tom?
Thank you. Thank you all. So I want to tell you a little bit about this concept of waste. We've been very digital today. We're going to go exceptionally physical. A little bit of a background. We're about 13 years old as a business. We operate all over the world. Luckily, we're actually working with P&G in effectively every country on this map in this quest to solve the very concept of waste. And I want to just take you on a journey because we sort of expect waste and we accept it, which is, I think, a really big challenge. If we think about garbage, and we just look at nature, there is no such thing as waste. That's why a turtle, when it's swimming in the ocean and it sees a plastic bag, doesn't see a plastic bag, it sees a jellyfish. Or why a bird, when it sees a cigarette butt, builds a nest from it. That very concept is entirely human, and I would argue not just human, but very modern. Right after the Second World War, two major things occurred that really created the concept of waste. One is we started using complex materials. I mean, look at the chair you're sitting on today or the clothing you're wearing. Very high chances it's made from petroleum products when before the 50s it was probably made from cotton, from wood, from leathers, things nature knew what to do with. And then not only have we shifted what we make to be made from hyper-complex materials, which are truly amazing things, we invented consumerism. Someone alive today buys 10 times more stuff than someone alive in the 1950s. Here's a crazy stat from the clothing industry. An average woman in the Western world today buys 67 garments per year and uses them on average 7 times before disposal. Compare that to what it was like 100 years ago. So where does all this waste go? Still today, which is shocking, 25% ends up in our oceans, which is a monumental issue. We're now, with P&G, and I'll tell you about it a little later, running the world's largest solution to marine waste. But here's what our cleanups look like with the team at P&G in Japan, for example. These are the beaches of northern Japan, which is a super developed country, and it looks like this every day. Next week, with the team in Latin America, we'll be doing a cleanup in the Sandblast Islands in Panama, and here's what those beaches look like for the native Kuna people who don't even use consumer goods. And this is what their lands are like. 2% is the rate that is recycled today around the world. 2%, that's it. And the rest, we burn or bury. Burying is landfilling, which is the world's most profitable and largest solution to waste. And burning, incineration, is very common in, say, Germany, Japan, South Korea, these forms of markets. So the question is, well, that's the context. What do we do to solve it? The first question that we usually try to look at is, say, let's take a linear product. The toothpaste tube is a good example. It's a product that's made, used, and today, unfortunately, can't be recycled. So the very, very first question is to say, because we're not going to change the concept of a toothpaste tube overnight, is how do we at least get that recycled typically into something else? And to solve that, we need to understand why are some things, like an aluminum can, highly recyclable almost everywhere, but such a thing as a toothpaste tube? Or did you know black plastic is not recycled anywhere in case you put it into your product? Or opaque PET is not recyclable anywhere. Why is that the case? And I have to tell you, it has nothing to do with the technical capacity of the waste. We're going to show you some pretty out there things from diaper recycling to cigarette butts. It has everything to do with money, which is actually quite solvable. What makes an aluminum can highly recyclable is the aluminum is so valuable that a garbage company, after collecting it and processing it, can still make money. What makes, say, a lipstick or a coffee capsule or opaque PET not recyclable? It's simply, it costs more to collect and process than it's worth. So then we go into disposal. Another way to look at this exact same chart is, and this is the joke, if you want to make your products 100% recycled and recyclable, it's a super easy answer. Make them from solid gold, and I guarantee not one will ever enter the waste stream. Now, it's a joke, but there's truth in it, because if you think about the world of lightweighting today, the big trend in sustainability is let's reduce material use, which is more sustainable. But let me take you on a journey of beverage packaging. This exact question. Beverage packaging historically was always glass. Glass today is the most recycled beverage container, and this is for US, in the US, but this echoes in every country in the world. What changes in the magnitudes? Has the highest rate of recycling. So the first step was move to aluminum. Seems very recyclable, and it is. But it's just recycled at a lower rate than glass. Then it's moved to PET. Again, recyclable, but it's recycled at half the rate of aluminum. Then it's cartons. They just became recyclable in the US at over 60%, yet it's half the rate of PET. And then the final jump, the ultimate in lightweighting, is move to a pouch, move to something flexible, and there it enjoys a 0% rate of recycling. And the reason this is the case is it's taking the value out of the material. And the more we lightweight, in fact, the more we make things less recyclable. And that's the challenge of sustainability, is that there is objective value in lightweighting. There's less material use, but you're also extracting value all the time. Think about the answer has been with us forever. Milk used to come from a really nice guy looking like this, drop it off in a highly durable container, you'd enjoy it, and it was completely circular. That was then moved to things like pouches and cartons, which are made to be disposed. And I think the big issue here is not about recyclability. It's that the consumer owns the package. Because if the consumer owns it and takes physical property over it, what's the goal? Keep reducing cost while trying to maintain function. So that first question that we talked about on the toothpaste tube, how do you solve it? Well, the waste has to be collected, of course, it has to be processed, but it has to generate enough value, not from the materials, because that can't do it, other forms of value, to make the engine go around. Because the biggest challenge in sustainability is doing it because it's the right thing to do. That is code for, it'll be a passion project with little funding for 1 year, and when your champion's gone, it's over. The real fundamental sustainability has to be when the money makes sense in traditional ways. Let me show you first, everything can be solved. Of course, the very best thing to do with waste is reuse. It was actually our first product ever. Turns out we had to get a license, in this case from Coke and Pepsi, to package worm poop in their distinctive shape, but you could run through high-speed bottling mixed-use bottles. Or here's how at Walmart, 2 years ago, 35 million plants were packaged literally in used margarine containers. That's reuse. Upcycling is more fun. It's creative. You see this, but it doesn't necessarily have the biggest market. We happen to be the world's largest upcycler, but not everyone wants a Capri Sun soccer ball or a Starbucks shoe. Although, let me just tell you, you're always ready to party when you wear this dress. So right? Excellent. So the real solution to waste is the science of it, taking it apart, getting those materials back. The irony is, of course, most things are made without the thought of disassembly. So just to show you, it can all be done. Take something like cigarette butts. We now do these in 11 countries around the world, recycle naturally cigarette butts, super easy. You shred them, separate them, the ash tobacco vapor becomes compost. The filter, which is plastic, can be made into these forms of products. Now, the true answer to, in this case, in this waste stream is stop smoking. Will never be this object, but that's not easy to convince a tobacco company to get behind. Anything, whether it's cosmetic waste into gardens, flip-flops into playgrounds, even soon national diaper recycling in Europe, everything can be. The question is the economics. Let me just show you for a fun little clip on something that many people never thought were recyclable.
Can I be the science guy?
It's already taken. Pick another one.
Tonight,
I found another partner who's interested in recycling latex, and I got some samples of their product.
a new assignment
You want to collect used condoms.
I can tell you're really excited about it, Rick, so...
Thrilled.
might be a bit of a stretch,
Condoms are not really something I
Use?
even for these scientists.
You can use it as a helmet.
Human Resources, all new, tonight at 7:30.
Now,
on
this may
Pivot.
seem comedic, but it's the same solution for plastic gloves, balloons, condoms. It turns out vulcanized rubber, it's very hard to shred, so you cryo-freeze it. From there, turn it into a powder through industrial stomping, and can become the grit for a glove, so it can have grip. So everything can be. We could regale you with examples for the next hour. But the key question is, what's the business model? So today with brands, with many P&G brands as well, we run platforms around the world today. 100 million people participate in collecting waste they could never collect before. For example, across the UK, here's all the places you can now drop off home care waste, things that you could never recycle before, like trigger sprayers, pouches, and so on. But you can't just do it because it's the right thing to do. You have to fulfill what I call the primary motivator, and in consumer product goods, it's selling stuff. Turns out that if you put the recycling logo on your product, it will gain market share, whether it's chips in Israel or pouches here. Retailers will support it by giving you all sorts of displays, by bringing in things like in-store collection and so on, which today is in 100,000 retailers around the world. So you can take a linear system and recycle it into something else, but that's not the final answer. The question then is, how do we get the waste back into the product itself? Now, one of the big challenges with procurement, is there anyone from procurement in the room, or finance? Okay, I'm gonna pick on you for a moment. Would you buy a plastic for a product if it was recycled, but lower quality and a higher price? Speak up. No, right on. But you did. And so why? The why is the critical aspect here. Some of you may know this example. I'm actually incredibly privileged to be a part of this because this is today the world's largest solution to ocean waste by 100 times next to anyone else who's been doing this sort of thing. It's pretty incredible, yeah. And that's wonderful. How it happens, in case you're interested, is now in every continent around the world. We're running collections in beaches, rivers, lakes, and oceans, collecting all this waste, bringing it to local warehouses, sorting out seaweed, fishing nets, whatnot, through R&D with the P&G team, with the packaging company, with our team developing a polymer that can be put into, in this case, the Head & Shoulders bottle at 25%. So this is 25% marine plastic. And you're going to see this roll out not just in hair care, but all sorts of other divisions. But that's not the real story to me. What is really amazing is breaking the question we just asked. And what happened? 3 key things. We launched this just recently at the World Economic Forum in January. Since January, if you Google Head & Shoulders, marine plastic, or TerraCycle, we're almost over 4 billion earned impressions, which is a massive campaign, allows less marketing to have to be spent. You can move it into something that creates purpose, like media. It also allowed the product to go with products that have never gone before. It's the first product in history ever launched at the World Economic Forum. It's winning awards. Products simply don't win. But much more importantly, what makes the engine go is retailers want to be a very big part of it. And the moment shopper marketing, incrementality come into play, it's the engine that makes it work. I just want to show you for fun a couple of talking points from the announcement.
25% of all the plastic today that is consumed ends up in the marine systems.
Thanks to the partnership with TerraCycle and Suez, we will create the world's first recyclable shampoo bottle made with beach plastic.
So in fact, this turns into this.
And in order to produce those plastic, we are using 90% less energy than to produce virgin ones.
We're able to take this completely mixed material and turn it into a very high performance polymer that can then be introduced at 25% into a bottle like this.
So the question, though, isn't it great that we can now make things that weren't recyclable and get cool materials, waste, back into products? But there's still a question. Even if we take this to the extreme and every toothpaste tube or trigger spray or pouch is collected and recycled and they're all made from waste, is that the answer? And I would argue, because the consumer owns the package, no. So the future, what's going to happen years from now, or a few years from now, in fact, is figuring out how do we go back, learn from the past, but modernize it. Because that way, by bringing durability to packaging, the entire idea of waste can be completely eliminated. So with that said, thank you.